So if you are thinking about moving from New York to Florida, this is a video for you. This week, we are going to explore the pros and cons of moving from New York to Florida. My name is Ray Fernandez. I'm with Living in Palm Beach, Florida, powered by eXp Luxury. Welcome. Each week we explore different areas in and around Florida. Each week we talk about what it's like living and moving to Florida. If these are topics that are interesting to you, hit that subscribe button because we do something like this every single week. Here we have in the background is the Statue of Liberty. 18 years ago, my family relocated from this area, from the New York City area to Florida, and we haven't looked back. More on that later. I know it's a big deal. My team and I know it's a big deal. A few years back, I did a video on moving New York to Florida. Is it a mistake? And this is going to sort of be like a continuation of that video. I did that a couple of years ago, and believe it or not, within a couple of years, a lot has happened. We had COVID back in 2020. It's changed the dynamic of everything real estate in the last few years. I mean, New York City is not the same. I've lived here my entire life up until the last 18 years. I know, and I came back here recently for the first time in a long time. There were some significant differences, and I just was a little bit surprised. This bicycle thing you guys have going on, I don't know what you're thinking. It's culturally speaking, it's a difference. And if you are thinking about moving to Florida, there are some mistakes that you can make. And maybe it's not for you. Florida might not be the place for you. In this video, we're going to break down what you can expect and avoid those mistakes. We're going to discuss the pros and cons when it comes from moving from New York to Florida. 18 years ago, my family and I relocated to this beautiful part of the world we call Florida, and we haven't looked back. I'm actually not in Florida right now. If you're wondering what it's like and what's involved when it comes to moving and living in anywhere in Florida, and you want questions, if you have questions you want answers from people who've actually done it before, there's a few ways to get a hold of us. Down below is our email address. That's one great way. Also on the screen you see our phone number. You can either call or text. But literally two of the best ways is in the description and the comment section. There's a link. Click on that link. What that'll do is that'll save some time for us to speak either through a phone call or through a Zoom, whatever way you feel most comfortable. In any case, we have your back when it comes to relocating to here to sunny South Florida. One of the pros when it comes to moving from New York to Florida is the cost. It is by far the number one thing that people take into consideration when considering moving to Florida. A while back, again, I did a couple of videos on moving from New York to Florida. And on the original one, I looked at the cost difference. I use some gadgets and things from our friends over at NerdWallet and other resources. And we had determined at the time there was a 22% difference in the cost of living from New York to Florida that is lower. Florida is 22% lower in terms of cost of living. Now, I haven't run the numbers precisely recently, but I will say this. I would suspect if I ran those same exact numbers, they would show that gap narrowing. And one of the main reasons for that is the biggest component of your cost for living is housing. And housing has gone up everywhere around the country, as anyone who's been alive for the last few years knows. But it's the dynamic is this. The prices of homes in Florida have gone up faster and more than the prices of homes here in the New York area. Not just in New York City, which is where I'm standing now. Like there's the Statue of Liberty in the background. I'm in the financial district of New York. Those of you familiar with New York City know exactly where I am. This is where they filmed that famous yacht with the Wolf of Wall Street, looking over with the talks with the FBI. Anyways, going back to the cost. What happened when COVID took place, it changed the dynamic of real estate. And the main reason is because a lot of people were able now to take their job and work remotely, and it gave them the opportunity to work anywhere in the world for many, not everybody, for many people in the world. And if you were to choose between other places in the world, Florida's got to be at the top of your list when it comes to places to live around the country. Here at Living in Palm Beach, Florida, we focus obviously on Palm Beach, Florida. I'm just giving you an idea of some of the prices. I speak to agents and realtors and real estate people all across the country every single day. I have a good pulse on what's going on around different areas. And if you look at the numbers, the real estate, one of the best statistics I use is the median single-family home price. That's what I use. And that variable, the prices in Palm Beach, Florida, are at all-time highs. Lots of places around the country you cannot say that. You look at even Naples, Florida, across the state, they've seen about a 20% decline from the highs. I speak to people in Sarasota all the time. They've seen a decline. So in general, there's been a decline a little bit across the country. Palm Beach is at all-time highs. Also, if you're going to move to Palm Beach, you want to pick the right area. I always tell people, do not make the mistake of just moving without getting the proper guidance, because it's very easy to make a mistake when moving to Palm Beach. As a good example, the average single-family home the median single-family home in Palm Beach today is $640,000, and it's very different. Places on Palm Beach Island are significantly higher. And I'll give you a place where we do a lot of business, especially recently, Palm Beach Gardens. Palm Beach Gardens, the median sales price, a single-family home there, is $1 million. So, and it's growing. It's one of the fastest-growing places. So, if you want to know the dynamics of anywheres in Florida, reach out. I can help you and let you know exactly and help you navigate and where you should look and consider if you're thinking about moving from New York to Florida. So in a nutshell, the cost of living is lower in Florida, probably not as much as it once was, but that, again, because prices have gone up, especially in Palm Beach, more than other stuff, the people who wait are, generally speaking, not taking as advantage of the people who've done it sooner, but there is still, in our opinion, opportunity when it comes to moving to Florida. One of the pros when it comes to moving to Florida from New York is taxes. I'm sure a lot of you know about this, but in Florida, there is no state income tax. Here in the world of New York, this place here, there is a ton of the taxes. I used to work here. For those who don't know, I am a former Wall Street trader. I used to run a trading desk right there, not the Wolf of Wall Street per se, but I did run a trading desk in those buildings. In fact, I worked in one of those buildings for one of the firms I worked at. But when I worked there, I literally 50% of my taxes, 50% of what I owe, 50 of what I owned went to taxes between the federal government, Medicare, between the state taxes, between the local New York City tax and everything. I used to live here in Manhattan. Everything. I mean, I literally half our paycheck was gone. In Florida, there is no state tax. You immediately are giving yourself a raise when it comes to moving to Florida from New York. That's one thing. I got to touch on this. One of the cons when it comes to moving from New York to Florida is real estate taxes. That might surprise some of you. So we do a lot of, that's what we do. Living in Palm Beach, Florida, we help people relocate to Florida. We help answer questions. We look at communities that we think would be an appropriate fit for what you're looking to do, where your job might be, or maybe if you're a remote job, that's even easier, because there's a lot that gives you more flexibility. But the biggest surprise is when people think that their real estate taxes are going to be a lot lower in Florida, and the simple fact is they're not. So as I say, we see a lot of people who come here and think that's come to Florida, I should say, and think that's the case. So and they are somewhat surprised. My experience in moving from here, I actually moved from Glen Cove, Long Island. I lived here and then we moved out to Long Island. The taxes in there, and it's a similar area. You know, it's a suburb. All of Palm Beach in general is like one big suburb, just so you know, for those who don't know. But it was our experience that the real estate taxes were a little bit lower. We had a similar price. This is a good example. We had a similar priced house. We sold a similar priced house in New York, moved to Florida, almost exactly the same price, got twice the space at the time. We had twice the space, and our real estate taxes were a little bit lower, but not by a whole lot. And that surprises people. When I hear people say, when they say, what are the taxes going to be on this? And I tell them they're a little bit surprised. As in a nutshell, I'll tell you this: how you should calculate it is if you're looking at buying a house, let's say $1 million, you should look at, depends on where it is. It's the difference between Port St. Lucie and Miami and New York and Palm Beach. But in general, you should figure it to be somewhere between 1.6% of your purchase price all the way to 2%, or maybe slightly higher, particularly in Port St. Lucie and other areas like that. If you want guidance on that, we can obviously help you. But having no state tax is a big deal. And the other part about the taxes, I know I'm going a lot on the financials here, but it's an important factor when moving. It is for everybody. It's the top of the list. There's something called homestead exemption. You do not get anything like that here in New York. You do get that in Florida, and it's a big deal. It does give you a discount on your taxes if Florida is your primary resident. That's great. It's about $900 a year. It's not a big deal, but it's a deal. The biggest aspect of it is they have a Save Our Homes component of it, and what that does is it caps the amount the county can tax you on your real estate taxes. There are amount they can assess you for real estate taxes at 3%. So when you get these big years in real estate appreciation, 10%, 15%, even 8%, anything more than 3 pretty much, they're not going to be able to raise your assessed value more. So someone like myself, who's been here 18 years, the value of my home assessed is literally half of what I'm being taxed on. And as people here live here longer, they have this huge real estate tax benefit. One of the pros when it comes to moving to Florida from New York. It also protects you from creditors. There's a big thing. I don't want to go too much in depth on the homestead exemption. It is a complicated topic, but there is tremendous value and benefit from it. Reach out to our team if you want to learn more about it, and I'd love to explain it to you. One more point on real estate taxes. Don't Google it and think that that's going to be the answer. It's wrong. I've seen so many people that'll say, well, I went to Google and it says real estate taxes are 1%. It's not true. There's so much misinformation that misguides you. If you want to believe that, you're welcome to. But here at Living in Palm Beach, we live in Realville, and we've helped a lot of families relocate to Florida. So anyways, again, my point from earlier, if you want some guidance on real estate taxes or anything financially speaking, we'd love to help you and learn so you can understand the differences when moving to Florida. One of the cons when it comes to moving to Florida from New York is insurance. Insurance is a problem in Florida. And when I say insurance, I'm going to speak at it from two angles in particular. From people from a personal perspective, I'm not talking about commercial insurance, but on a personal perspective. Auto insurance, let's start there. Auto insurance is higher in Florida, and that's not even the biggest one. I'll get to the biggest one in a second. Auto insurance is higher in Florida. And there's a few reasons for it. I understand. Well, this is the rationalization for it, at least. They have a lot of uninsured drivers in Florida. I don't know how. Things have been getting better, but it's still not great, to be honest with you. These are few factors that go into why they rationalize for higher auto insurance in Florida. Is we do get a lot of transient people. For whatever reason, there are people that move to Florida, move out. That happens a lot. Florida is one of the most populated states in the United States now. That you've probably seen. More and more people are moving there. It's the biggest growth state from population. So that's definitely a factor. There's a lot of seasonal people too. We call them snowbirds. You probably have heard of that. Snowbirds are people that move that live really, let's say here in New York, and we get a lot of that. And if that's you, that's great. I can help you with that. That live in New York or somewhere else in the United States, and they use Florida as their winter home, and that's amazing. If you can swing that, that's awesome. To be honest with you. And anyways, so you get a lot of people who drive around might not necessarily know where they are going, so that's a factor. And in general, too, population, it's not like as bad as it used to be. Florida used to be the land of the retirees. It's not really the case anymore. More and more families, and I see this firsthand, more and more families are moving to Florida, but the ages do trend a little bit older because always has been a slightly older population in Florida. And let's face it, there comes a time when people might be too old and should not be on the road. So we take that into consideration. So in general, when it comes to insurance, expect higher auto insurance when it comes to moving to Florida. All right, continuing on the con of insurance in Florida is homeowners insurance, and that's the bigger one, to be honest with you. As you might have heard, there are hurricanes. That's another con when it comes to moving to Florida. We get hurricanes. We get these nasty hurricanes from time to time in Florida, and that's a factor. So it's a factor on insurance. Your insurance is a lot less. Not a lot less. It's less in other places of the country. It's probably more than in Florida than any place else. There are different counties that have different prices as well. Just so you know. As an example, Monroe County, which is where the Florida Keys are, it's the worst there. It's the highest there. Next up is Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade is number 2 when it comes to bad insurance premiums. Number 3, Broward County. As you notice, there's a trend. It's all South Florida. And number 4 is Palm Beach. So we have ways around it. In general, I don't know what you pay insurance in whatever state you live in. In general, it's higher, but there's a way around it. And this is one way we help people navigate the cost of insurance when it comes to moving to Florida. Most of the people we are working with that are moving to Florida go in the direction of new construction, and it is a huge benefit when it comes to insurance. As an example, most people watch these YouTube videos on insurance and they get scared out of the bejesus because they hear, I hear it's really bad. It is bad, but it's not as bad as people make it out to. Remember, people are putting these videos out for clickbait. They want you to click on their stuff. And here, again, we live in Realville here and living in Palm Beach, Florida. I want to tell you the real truth. Most of the people that I work with that buy new construction homes, and that's the answer, new construction homes pay somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 a year, and that's it for homeowners insurance. Now, that same house, if you're buying an existing home from 2000 or 2005, it can be literally 3 times that. So that's why, again, of all the families we help move to Florida, probably 85% of them look at, and we look at both in almost every case, and I let them go through the process because I want them to make the decision for themselves. But almost like all those cases, they end up going in the case of new construction for lots of reasons. Insurance is being one. Again, if you want to know more about how that, if you're looking at a particular area and a particular size, what I just gave you, this $2,000 to $3,000, is fairly typical. The average price of a home that we work with, and we do homes in all price ranges. We do $2 million homes, we do $200,000 homes, but the average price we deal with is about $800,000 to $1 million, and that is the price I just quoted you in terms of insurance. But in any case, if you are looking at a particular budget and you want some guidance on that, reach out to our team, and we'll do that for you. Sort of continuing on the financial aspect of it, because let's face it, we need money to live. One of the big differences between moving from New York to Florida is jobs. Having moved there 18 years ago to Florida, Palm Beach, Florida, one of the things I noticed was there's not a lot of corporate jobs there. There weren't at the time. It's changing now. There's a good area. This is a good area to have this conversation. Actually, there were not a lot. There's a ton of in this here. All these big buildings. There are a ton of corporations over there. I don't know how well you can see it from there, but that's Jersey City. That's like a satellite city for New York, and that's huge. There's a ton of corporate jobs in this area. Now a lot of them are leaving. That's the thing. Going back to taxes, a lot of them are leaving. This city taxes people way too high, which is why people are moving out of here. I don't want to upset anybody, but that's it. The people I know that actually do say they want to stay here, they cite things like, oh, I would miss the Four Seasons, or I have family. The first Four Season thing I just don't buy, but the family thing I do. But in any event, that was one of the factors where at a time, jobs was keeping people moving. But as more and more families move out there to Florida, it's become less of a factor. Again, I was saying this area, that's Wall Street. And they have, if you look at Miami, you see articles on this, Miami and downtown West Palm Beach as well. They're calling it the Wall Street of the South. West Palm Beach, Wall Street of the South. A lot of firms, hedge funds, financial banks, all kinds of stuff have moved to downtown West Palm Beach. They've been in downtown Miami in the financial district like Brickell for quite some time, but it's only expanding. So we are seeing more and more jobs leave places like New York and go to Florida. Now it doesn't take place or transpire overnight, but it is going that direction. Florida used to be known as land of the retirees, and it's definitely not the case like that anymore. Most of the people that we work with are younger people, and we do a fair amount of 55 plus communities. That's one of our. We get a lot of people, you guys watching that are in that category, but we do see a lot of people like from 35 to 55 moving here, and Florida in general is getting younger, or moving to Florida, and Florida is getting younger. All right, one of the pros when it comes from moving to New York to Florida, or one of the cons when it comes from moving New York to Florida is, and I say this because you could interpret this however you like, there is a definite cultural difference between here and there. Now, I made a video, that second video I made about moving from New York to moving from New York. Was it a mistake, that video there? I highlighted this a little bit because this was like a couple years after COVID, and this city was still shut down pretty tight. And that's why you see all those, the restaurants in the street now and the bicycle things, and that this city has gone through a tremendous transformation. But there is a difference. There is a difference in how people react to it, a cultural difference. Florida opened up fairly quickly when it came to the shutdown. Now, I'm not going to be here and give you, I'll tell you my opinion, but I don't care. If you disagree with it, that's just fine. I'm completely fine with it. I help people of all different political backgrounds move here. But in any event, the truth is, this is a fact. We live in Realville, and this is a real fact. The Florida has a better business environment. It's a business environment when it comes to this stuff. They open businesses right away compared to New York and other places around the country, and because of that, I like to think, and I think most people would agree, that Florida came out of the COVID thing before New York did. But anyway, that's just a difference of some of the cultural thing. Guns is another thing. If you can't have a gun around here. In New York, in Florida, you can't. I have a concealed carry. I don't have it with me now. I have a concealed carry permit. I mean, that would never happen in New York here. So the thing that people will tell you in New York will say, "Why need a gun? I don't understand." And that's your opinion. That's fine. That's my opinion. So anyways, and if I get some flack, go down. Leave me some hate comments. I'd love it. I don't know. It's just culturally speaking. Culturally, it's different. And right or wrong, and I respect what you guys think. Culturally speaking, whether you're right, left, or whatever. But culturally speaking, there is definitely a difference when it comes from moving from New York to Florida. One of the cons when it comes to moving to Florida from New York is the vibrancy of things going on. Let's face it, there is no place better with things to do than New York City. If you live in New York City and you're thinking about moving to Florida, there are a few places I would definitely consider, but there's no place truly like this place. I was in Times Square last night, and it was ridiculous. I mean, it was a Saturday night. Saturday night, yeah, it was a Saturday night, and the people were out. It's like 11:30 at night, and the place was mobbed. So there's just a ton to do here. In general, now it's changing a little bit because we're getting more and more younger people move to Florida. But in general, things will close down earlier in Florida. Used to be really bad. Used to be like at 5:30, everything's thinking about shutting down in Florida, which is ridiculous. But anyways, one of the cons when it comes to moving from New York to Florida is you're going to have, Florida is just not up to the same speed of New York as things to do. And this is, let's face it, New York is a cultural capital. In general, there are more things open when it comes to living in New York versus Florida. Having said that, there's a lot to do in Florida, I'll tell you that. We are Florida is the boating capital of the world. It is the fishing capital of the world. As we look at this beautiful boating, this fishing boat, yacht, not from the Wolf of Wall Street, but from Virginia Beach. There's a lot of great water sports when it comes to Florida. You get a lot of people surfing, get a lot of wind, parasailing. If you go to the Keys, every July we like to go to the Keys. The Florida Keys are just amazing. Key West is nice, but it's more like a tourist destination. There's Marathon, there's Key Largo, there's all kinds of Isla Mirada. There's so much great things. So when it comes to water sports, there's no place better. So fitness-wise, and you probably have noticed while I'm here, there's a ton of people here along that's Battery Park City there. There's a ton of people just that probably live in Battery Park City that are running the area. So I can't say that they don't do it here as well. But there's so people do use their opportunity to get fit and whatnot. But in terms of things to do, there's more to do in Florida. There's more water sports in Florida. The other aspect of it that I think is important, which I didn't realize when I moved from New York to Florida, is you can do anything you want in January in Florida. So one of the things that I used to drive me crazy living here in New York that we don't experience in Florida is like from basically, let's call it the winter time, especially the deep winter like January, February, and it starts earlier, goes through like April. New York hibernates. We don't. In Florida, we are playing sports. I play softball in January. Kids are playing soccer in January. The high temperature, I'll touch on the weather later. I don't want to make too much because it's a little bit warmer in Florida than New York. But the high temperature in New York in Florida in January is typically about 70, 75 degrees. It goes down to the 50s at night, and that's a fairly typical January and February day. So when it comes to doing things in the wintertime, we can do things all around in Florida. So that's one of the pros when it comes to moving from New York to Florida. One of the cons when it comes to moving to Florida from New York are the schools. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. I did that as a trick. I was told that when I moved from New York to Florida, everybody warned me 18 years ago, and it's gotten better. The school's gotten even better since then. That was such a myth. People were saying how bad it was. Oh, if you're going to go, and I have 3 kids when I moved down here. If you're going to go down there, there's going to be a big downgrade to your education. That is so wrong. In fact, there's more opportunity, in my opinion, than New York, because in New York you get public schools or you have to pay a fortune to go to private schools. If you live in Manhattan, it's ridiculous. You can spend like $100,000 to send your kid to school, and it could be elementary school. So in Florida, we have public schools, we have charter schools, we have magnet schools. There's more opportunity. I don't want to elaborate too much on that, but I've been through the process. If you have questions about that, I would love to help you. But my kids, generally speaking, like we live in a town where all the schools are A-rated, and we didn't even send our kids to those because there were opportunities from programs that are magnet schools, one for engineering, one for dancing. Depends on what your kid is strong at, that you could do. That's a magnet school. And there's charter schools. And people say, well, what does a charter school cost? Well, I'll tell you, the cost out of your pocket in charter school is $0. Charter schools are technically private schools, but they are different. And you can go to a charter school from other places. If you're looking at new construction, I get people that ask me about certain communities, and the three big guys in Palm Beach are, number one is Avenir. It's the best community in Palm Beach. Reach out to our team. Don't register on their website. Don't go there on your own. You got to come through us. And we are by far the most active in Avenir when it comes. And there's Arden and there's Westlake, Florida. But when it comes to people moving to those areas, I help them navigate to school. I ran into somebody a while back who moved to Arden and sends her kids to Western Academy, which is a charter school. I said, listen, that's where two of my three went there. So there's more opportunity. We do have private schools too, and you can spend that kind of crazy money to send them to a private school. And there's some really good private schools in Florida. But the end result is you want to get them to a good college, is what I'm thinking, right? Florida has some of the best colleges there are. You can tell I went to college, right? I went to SUNY. I went to a SUNY, State University of New York School here in New York. And I traded on that. I traded in these floors here, in these trading floors here. Anyways, if the end result is college, University of Florida is ranked top 3, I think now, public school in the entire nation. Florida State University, again, highly ranked. Private schools like University of Miami, extremely strong. So if schools are always, with families, are always an important topic. And if you want some guidance on what to expect in that, reach out to him. I would love to personally give you some guidance on what's involved with that. Here's one that I waited to the end, and I probably shouldn't have. I think I did the same thing in the second video I did like this, but I'm going to do it anyways. So Florida is the land of HOAs, or homeowners associations. So if you are against homeowners associations, this would be a con in moving from New York to Florida. We have more homeowners associations in Florida than anywhere else in the nation. I sort of like it myself personally, but I know a lot of people who do not, and that's cool with me. As far as I'm concerned, that's fine. There's certain, no matter what you think, either way, there are pros and cons with both. And some people feel the pros outweigh the cons, and some people say the cons outweigh the pros. Generally speaking, the people who do not like the HOAs, homeowners associations, are people who say, I don't want people telling me what to do. So, and they're costly. They are costly, but there's some benefit. You get some benefit for that cost. And certainly it prevents your neighbor from painting their house, pink or purple or something like that. So if you want to keep some sanity in your neighborhood, that's one of the benefits. But on the other hand, there is a cost, and that's a con, that it costs more money. But if you want to know more about how that works and what's involved, because it is a complicated subject, and I'm a president of an HOA, and I work very closely with the largest, one of the largest homeowners associations in Florida, I can give you really good guidance on this. Reach out. I'd love to help you and give you an idea as to what to expect if you're considering an HOA or a homeowners association community. Last but not least, the weather. So yes, it's hotter in Florida. And I'm not going to say too much on this because I'm going to give you some of the obvious. I'm going to say this is one of the mistakes I learned later, is one of the things I didn't realize, is that it rains more than I thought it does in Florida when I moved there. Again, I did this all before, and this was my whole life. New York was my whole life. I know what's involved. I take this move really seriously. It's a big move. And when people are, on the fence about moving and they're looking at houses, and I can see they're apprehensive, lots of times they know it's the right thing, but it's because it's a big move, and I can appreciate that because I have been there. The weather, the rain was more than I thought, but in terms of the heat, I'm here, it's right now today, it is probably as hot in New York, if not hotter, than it is up in Palm Beach, Florida. In this time of year, it's exactly the same. The difference is in Florida, the weather stays hotter for longer. So on Labor Day, this place changes, and you New Yorkers know this. This place changes drastically. People's school starting, and the temperatures change big time. In Florida, it doesn't. Our September is pretty much like August. It doesn't change much. So basically we start earlier. don't have a deep cold. We do get a little bit of cold weather in Florida. We'll get like a couple of weeks where we'll get down into, and I know my definition of cold is different than maybe many of you, but we'll get into the 40s like at least once or twice a year at night. So anyways, but in general, the temperature is not as bad as people think, but the humidity is bad. I will say that. If you don't like humidity, Florida is not a place for you. Don't move to Florida. But anyways, there's lots of things. I mean, lots of things to consider here. I hope you find, there's a lot of factors here involved, and I'm really just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to going over what's involved. Anyways, it was a huge life change, and if you are considering it, it can be for you. For me, I have, as I say in all my videos, I haven't looked back, and I don't today, and I won't tomorrow. New York City, Florida, moving to paradise, and either will you choose whatever is best for you.